Atlanta-Fulton County Stadium, where coming up on CBS, it'll be the Atlanta Falcons and the Dallas Cowboys.
The NFL Today is sponsored by the 1981 Volkswagen Gas and Diesel Rabbit. Volkswagen does it again. And by True Value Hardware Stores. True Value, more than just a name. It's our way of doing business. Now from Atlanta-Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, here's Brent Musburger.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Atlanta. It is 42 degrees, going to be colder, though, in the fourth
period. Well, let me tell you something. You're awfully brave to be wearing a Cowboy hat here. There are a lot of folks out there that think you've been rooting a little bit too hard for the Cowboys, so I got a little gift for you.
Oh, I have to wear this? You're on your own today, okay? All right, Greek, now we're all set. Let's do it here in Atlanta, everybody. Come on now. Yesterday, a couple of big games around the league. First of all, the Philadelphia Eagles eliminated the Minnesota Vikings. But for a half, the game belonged to Bud Grant and the Vikings. Trailing 16-14, Max Runniger delivered a critical punt. Eddie Payton of the Vikings coughed it up at the 24. Philadelphia recovered at the 20-yard line. They then drove to the go-ahead touchdown. Wilbert Montgomery behind, a great block by Leroy Harris, and suddenly the Eagles were in command. Before it was over, the Vikings would turn the ball over 8 times in the second half. Here's linebacker Frank LeMaster with a deflected pass by Tommy Kramer. Seldom used Perry Harrington, then salted it away with this touchdown. And Dick Vermeil is carried toward an NFC championship game next Sunday. And Jimmy, talking about the Eagles, they're really beat up at wide receiver, aren't they?
They sure are. They're going to have to reactivate that boy Henry.
Wally Henry, good return man.
Oh, yes, he is. And they almost reactivated him last week, actually.
Okay. Well, Phyllis and Jimmy, of course, there was another big game, and that was played out in San Diego. The Buffalo Bills gave the Chargers all they wanted behind quarterback Joe Ferguson. Roosevelt Leaks banged in for Chuck Knox, and the Bills took a 7-3 lead. But what a courageous performance by Knox's quarterback, Joe Ferguson. Playing with a badly sprained left ankle, Ferguson continued to drive the Bills. Watch him here throw off the right foot and hit Frank Lewis for the touchdown. The Chargers needed a lift.
We were a little sluggish. We weren't coming off the ball real hard, and we needed something to get us going in the second half, and we said, let's go right at them up the middle.
And up the middle they came. First it was Chuck Muncie. Then Dan Fouts would go to Charlie Joyner, and that made it 14-10 after the extra point. But the biggest play of the game came with 2:10 left. On the blitz, one-on-one, Ron Smith isolated on the safety. He beat Bill Simpson, and the Chargers go to the title game.
I had to come up with a big play, and it was wide open, so I had to go for it. One away. They know how I feel now to win it, so I think we're going to go all the way in it this time.
We felt like, we've got the team that can go all the way, and we don't want to give it up to anybody.
We got one more game, and hopefully we can get to New Orleans.
And they, of course, will be playing either Oakland or Cleveland inside of 2 minutes left in that game. The Raiders lead the Browns 14-12. And the NFL Today continues on CBS from Atlanta in just a moment. We are just minutes away from the kickoff between the Falcons, of course, and the Dallas Cowboys. The last time they played, 1978. Tables were turned. Falcons with a wild card playing in Dallas. He might score. Oh. He does. It's a surprise of the season. The 13-point underdogs are whipping the Cowboys.
We were definitely as highly keyed as we could possibly be, and we lined up and physically got after them.
They were very effective on us, and they threw the ball well and did a good job. And actually, they were pretty well up on us when we finally turned it around.
And 2 plays really turned it around, like a kickoff that almost became a Falcon touchdown.
We had like 3 athletes actually fall on the ball on about the 4-yard line and 3-yard line, and he finally gets batted around and knocked all the way out of the end zone. Dallas had some people diving for it too, and I felt like if we could have recovered that ball at that time and punched it in there, then we would have definitely won the ball game.
But Atlanta was still leading when linebacker Robert Pennywell knocked Roger Staubach out of the game.
We weren't moving the ball very well under Roger when Roger got hurt. So when we went to Danny White, of course, we expected not too good of things to happen.
Danny White had other ideas. This is basically what happened. He came in and played a tremendous football game.
Really wasn't any big deal about it other than the fact that we came back and won.
First and goal, Dallas. The Atlanta 2.
White rallied the Cowboys to a pair of second-half touchdowns. Dallas survived 27-20 and went on to the Super Bowl. But the Falcons can't forget.
For some reason, as a football team, we really didn't believe we were quite as good as Dallas. And when that little thought creeps into your mind, some way, somehow, the other team's going to beat you.
Dallas is a tough football team. They're pretty much the same football team that we faced in 1978. But I think the key thing there is that they're not playing the same Atlanta Falcon football team.
Roger Staubach remembers. He's standing by with Irv Cross on the sideline. Let's go to Irv now.
All right, Raj, that was a couple of years ago. Has the tide turned?
Well, that brings back some memories. I got knocked out in the first half. That's one of my worst concussions. I don't remember the second half, but I heard we won. I think the tide has turned as far as Atlanta's concerned. A few years back, there's a great psychology in the playoffs. The idea of just being there for some teams is exciting, but it's a building process. Now Atlanta feels they've been there before. They're much more confident. Now they want to do something being there. So back then they were just happy to be there, and it showed in the second half, and they lost. Secondly, their offense is much better. Bartkowski is solid this year. The running game is solid. They're moving the ball in offense. Back then it was a gambling defense that won a lot of games for them. They're getting the turnovers. Now their defense is much more conservative, so it's a different Atlanta team, basically the same Dallas team, except Dallas is in Atlanta instead of Dallas, and that could make a difference for Dallas.
Well, okay, you know, 2 years ago, the wild card Falcons doubted their ability to compete with Dallas. Now, today's division champions lack little in confidence because the always tough defense is now supported by an offensive cast that's one of the most explosive in pro football. And the Falcon offensive line, a victim of 56 sacks in 1979, makes it all happen. Since 1977, the Atlanta Falcons have been building their offensive unit from the ground up around quarterback Steve Bartkowski. In 1980, all the pieces came together. No team can boast a more balanced attack. William Andrews, number 31, along with Lynn Kane, became the best running tandem in the league. Bartkowski passed for over 3,500 yards, and his 31 touchdown passes were the most in the NFL. Atlanta's offensive strength grew from their heart and soul, the offensive line. They reduced their sack total by more than 20 from the previous year, the result of careful reorganization by the Falcon coaching staff.
Our feeling was that we had to do whatever was necessary this year to cut down on those sacks.
We tried to get why it happened, if it was a stunt, if it got a sack, how we could improve on that.
The quarterback is probably 90% of why you have success offensively. We felt that if we could keep Steve on his feet and give him a chance to get the ball out of there, that we would have success.
From all-rookie tight end Junior Miller to veteran Wallace Francis, number 89, Falcon receivers shine, but not in a star system.
Now we don't have any one star. You can't key on one player. You can't key on Wallace Francis, Alfred Jenkins, Alfred Jackson, or Junior Miller, because all of them can hurt you. And here we have 4 threats in the receivers, and we have 2 backs who can catch the balls like receivers, so you need a lot of guys who are threats all the time.
Of all the Falcon receiving threats, the most productive is Alfred Jenkins, number 84, who is no longer modest about his accomplishments.
Haven't had any national publicity. A guy like me, 5'9½", 155 pounds, I've gained 1,000 yards this year. I haven't gotten any respect, Herb. No respect at all. You know, little old guy like me, skinny, playing professional football, and nobody recognizes my talent.
The talents of William Andrews are clearly recognizable. Number 31 became the premier all-purpose back in football, running for over 1,300 yards and catching 51 passes. Andrews possesses an additional skill that makes him truly versatile.
How would you rate yourself as a blocker?
Well, I'm probably the best one in the league.
And that's saying it modestly, I guess, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've proven myself over 2 years. My running ability for number one, and now I can stay in there with the best of them and block some of the best of them.
12 wins and a division title. They're not cocky, just confident.
The feeling on our football team is that we can win, that we're going to win, and we're not going to panic if we get behind.
As long as there's time on the clock, we can score. Our offense feel that, the quarterback feel that, and the receivers are with 3 seconds left on the clock is telling Bart, throw to me. We feel we can score anytime, any place, on any team.
Score indeed. The Falcons, the second most productive offensive team in all of pro football during the season, will challenge the Dallas defense today. Brent?
Bright young team, Irv Cross, and while you were telling us about them, the Oakland Raiders just intercepted a pass in the end zone. All they have to do now is run out the clock, and all eyes and ears will be focused on Atlanta. You'll be listening to Vin Scully and George Allen. George was out jogging early this morning. He's in good shape, folks. Let's go up to Vin now.
Thank you, Brent. You know, there's a great writer named Graham Greene who wrote a book called The Heart of the Matter. Let's condense 30 years of coaching into about 45 seconds. George, what's the heart of the matter? You could talk until you're blue in the face, but let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Well, Vin, the first thing I think that Atlanta, Bartkowski, is going to try to isolate Barnes and Mitchell and go deep, get a one-on-one. The next thing is that White has to run. White needs a running game with Dorsett to take the pressure off so he can throw the football. Dorsett will not be as effective as he was against the Rams running, but Dallas has to run first to set up the pass.
What about the pass rush for Atlanta with their three-man front?
Good question. Atlanta's going to have to come in with at least 4 men or 5 men. If they rush with 3, White will have a big game throwing the football.
Well, one way or other, it's a big game, and with that, let's go to Phyllis Joy.
Thank you, Vin and George. You all look all snuggy up there in your broadcast booth, and I'm going to be talking about Tony Dorsett, I think.
That'll all be coming up as the NFL Today continues on CBS in just a moment. From the Atlanta-Fulton County Stadium, it's the Dallas Cowboys coming up against the Atlanta Falcons, and the Oakland Raiders have just reached the finals of the AFC. They'll play San Diego next Sunday. They eliminated Cleveland 14-12.
Say it one more time.
The Raiders are in the final game, Jimmy the Greek. And Phyllis, why don't you tell us about touchdown Tony Dorsett?
TD, right? Well, Tony Dorsett has really enjoyed 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons for the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys have won 19 of 20 games where TD, Tony Dorsett, has scored at least 100 yards per season. And from scrimmage, well, there are critics, both on and off the field, and they remain a bit skeptical about Tony Dorsett's consistency and his determination.
Tony Dorsett is not necessarily an overrated player. He's a type of player who needs motivation.
I think Tony's detractors are a little unrealistic in that they don't really take into account his consistency.
People right away started feeling that I was a little big-headed, spoiled guy from Pittsburgh, arrogant, outgoing guy, like to go out and party and very loquacious, when when really, in reality, I make the exact opposite.
Despite a cause and effect relationship with the Dallas offense, Tony Dorsett seldom receives the respect due his achievements. When he plays well, the Cowboys usually win. And last week, his 160-yard, 2-touchdown performance shocked the Ram defense.
Tony Dorsett is a reaction runner, whereas he runs according to flashes that he sees. If he sees an opposite jersey flash, he's going to cut and sway away from it, which is a natural type of running style. If you have that style of running, then you've got to learn blocking patterns to know where the softness of the defense is. So even though you see some flashes of defense there, you still have the confidence that you can break through it and come out the other side.
He has always been a player that I've never really seen him explode real fast in the early season. I think it takes him a while each year to really get rolling, and I think that that's the most valuable kind of player to me, the person who can develop through a season, improve through a season, and still have the edge for the playoffs. There are a lot of players who lose it early in the season, and they're just kind of hanging around for the playoffs.
I didn't get into the National Football League overpowering people. I wouldn't stay in the National Football League very long if I started and tried to overpower people. Physically, I'm not a big person. My whole game is speed and finesse and trying to maneuver people, get around people as much and as often as I can.
I think Tony's very smart about his capabilities. I think he's very realistic with himself. He's certainly not an Earl Campbell. He's not a prototype runner. He's the new runner, I think, in the NFL. The guy that scoots on the AstroTurf has a much better ability of getting away. People have such tremendous respect for Tony now. His rookie year and second year, everybody thought he was a little small. They didn't really take him for real. And now, I think everybody respects him.
Tony Dorsett's potential, I believe, hasn't been reached yet. It deals with a question of motivation. And for whatever reason, he gets himself going. In some games, it seems like he goes. In other games, it doesn't. It's not a question, I don't think, of being overrated or underrated. It's a matter of individual desire to want to perform. Right now, Tony Dorsett's at a point where he really wants to perform. That's why I think the Cowboys are really going to be the ones to come out on top.
Today, the challenge for the Atlanta Falcons is evident, stopping Tony Dorsett at his playoff peak. Brent, how long do you have to keep proving yourself in the NFL?
Forever. And so does Jimmy the Greek, forever. And that's coming up as the NFL today continues with Oakland, San Diego in just a moment.
And shouldn't even be that, really. It should be a toss-up. It's two teams who have really played great football all season. Now, the offensive line definitely has to go to the Cowboys as far. They've got more experience, and they sure moved the ball against the Rams. The defensive front last week, again, was super. I mean, they were really great. So consequently, we're going to give them another edge. The home team, the Falcons, are in. Listen, Brent, these two teams are not similar in what they do, but they're very close as far as personnel is concerned. This game is really a toss-up, but we're going to give it to Dallas.
Upset time.
For Dallas for experience. That's all.
Just
nothing
experience.
More. That's all. Nothing more.
He may be able to take advantage of some of those enthusiastic young defensive players.
He's got players. He's got players that have been here before, and you know they just say, "Well, this is like going to Hawaii again." You know?
Tell me now, Gene Klein and Al Davis, or should I say San Diego and Oakland, who's going to be favored?
Well, San Diego will be favored, but they'll never win it.
The NFL today continues on CBS in just a moment. Or the Chargers ready now.
Right off the top, Raj, how do you see this game?
I think Atlanta's really got to run the football. Andrews and Kane are excellent running backs. If they run the ball, Bartkowski will be able to do his job because Dallas's front four, if they're concerned about the run, they're getting beat on the run, they can't rush the passer. The biggest strength Dallas has is rushing that passer, putting pressure on him. If Atlanta could run, Dallas could be in trouble. And Dallas's offense has got to exploit those rookies on the Atlanta defense.
All right, Terry, what do you see?
Well, it's a big play team, Atlanta Falcons. The fourth quarter's always been the quarter they've really come and score a lot of points. I think today the matchup, the offensive line of Atlanta against the defensive line of the Cowboys, give Bartkowski ties it. Boy, we're going to have a great game.
All righty, there it is, Brent.
All right, Irv, thank you very much. There is a festive air in this stadium, as there has been in this city and the state throughout the last week, because this indeed could become the city of champions. Just listen to an old graduate from the University of Georgia who was never happier in his life.
Yeah, you like to be on top, you know, and if you've got two athletic teams on top, you take pride, see, and show that we were like Pittsburgh and other places, you know, when they had two championships. Sure, we'd have a lot of pride and great pride.
Ain't nothing finer in the land. Ain't nothing finer in the land than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan. Than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan. Go, Dog! Go, Dog! Go, Dog! Go, Dog! Go!
New Year's Eve in the New Orleans French Quarter, but this year it's been taken over by Georgians, more than ready to celebrate their first major sports championships.
This year, we hope that this is the year.
It's the most exciting thing that's ever happened to us. We are really thrilled.
What would it be like in Atlanta if both the Bulldogs and the Falcons do it?
It's going to be total bedlam.
But for the state of Georgia to claim those championships, all roads lead right through the city of New Orleans inside the Superdome, because their Bulldogs are getting ready to play Notre Dame for the National Collegiate Championship, and then 3 weeks later, the Atlanta Falcons hope to be here in the Super Bowl. half the dream has come true. Georgia behind the running of Herschel Walker, beating Notre Dame, winning that first national title and passing the baton to the Falcons, who now begin their journey toward New Orleans. Can they do it?
Yes, I think they can do it. Like the guys from the South are going to come up to the top, and the Falcons are going to go out there and they're going to beat Dallas and show them that these Georgia boys can play football.
Oh, he's a super back. I think he's. I know he went to the University of Georgia to get an education, but I think he's wasting his time as far as his football playing ability goes. He belongs up here with the big boys.
But that's 4 years off. The Falcons go it alone against Dallas without Herschel, and all of Georgia, and especially the Bulldogs, will be watching.
For the distance for Jenkins.
Well, we're pulling for him. We've been pulling for him all year long, and it's going to be classic. We want to keep everything here in the state of Georgia, which has never been done before. So we're pulling for the Falcons. We're going to be in front of the TV on Sunday.
How about them dogs?
Whoa, 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 whoa. All right, coming out. Grab a chair and relax, because the city of Atlanta is ready. It's the Falcons and the Dallas Cowboys. For Phyllis and Jimmy and Irv and Terry and Roger, we'll all be back at halftime and afterwards. And don't forget, Oakland eliminates Cleveland 14-12. We hope you've enjoyed the NFL Today on CBS.